The development of language in hominids is a fascinating journey that combines evolutionary biology, neuroscience, and genetics. Let's dive into how language might have evolved among hominids, supported by DNA similarities. First, let's look at the evolutionary timeline of hominids. This group includes modern humans, chimpanzees, gorillas, and orangutans, along with their extinct relatives. Key ancestors like Australopithecus lived around 4 million years ago, showing early signs of upright walking, but with limited brain capacity. Moving forward, Homo habilis, about 2.4 million years ago, displayed rudimentary tool use, hinting at cognitive advances. Then came Homo erectus, who showed more advanced tool use and possibly early forms of communication. Now, let's talk about the genetic basis for language. One of the most important genes here is FOXP2. This gene plays a critical role in speech and language development. Humans have a unique version of this gene compared to chimpanzees, which likely helped us develop the fine motor control needed for speech. Interestingly, Neanderthals and Denisovans, extinct relatives of ours, also had a similar FOXP2 gene, suggesting they might have been capable of complex speech. Another important gene is sRGAP2. This one is linked to brain development, especially in the neocortex, which handles higher-order brain functions like decision-making and language. Humans have a duplicated version of this gene, which may have given us the cognitive edge for developing language. Speaking of brain development, areas like Broca's and Wernicke's regions are key for speech production and understanding. These areas are more developed in humans, but Neanderthals also showed some enlargement, hinting at their potential for some form of language. Culturally, the use of tools and symbolic behavior played a role too. Early hominids needed to communicate to share tool-making techniques. Over time, as tools became more complex, so did their communication. Evidence of symbolic thought, like cave paintings and burial rituals found in Neanderthals, points to sophisticated forms of communication. When we look at DNA comparisons, Neanderthals and Denisovans share about 1 to 4% of DNA with non-African modern humans. They had similar versions of the genes linked to language, suggesting they could communicate in complex ways, even if it wasn't exactly like modern human language. Chimpanzees, our closest living relatives, share about 98 to 99% of our DNA, but even small genetic differences greatly affect their language abilities. They can use basic signs, but don't have the vocal anatomy for spoken language. Speaking of anatomy, humans have a lower position larynx or voice box, which allows for a greater range of sounds. This anatomical feature is crucial for spoken language. Neanderthals had a similar hyoid bone, which supports the tongue and is essential for speech, suggesting they could produce complex sounds. Lastly, social and environmental factors played a big role. Hominids lived in groups, and communication was key for survival, hunting, and sharing knowledge. Language likely evolved as a tool for better social interaction, becoming more complex as our social structures and cultures evolved. In conclusion, the development of language in hominids is a result of a combination of genetic evolution, brain development, anatomical changes, and social needs. Genes like FOXP2 and sRGAP2, along with evidence from our hominid relatives, help us understand how we moved from basic communication to the rich languages we use today.